Hey, I'm克萊兒沙佛茲.
Hey, and I'm Brad Leone from Bon Appetit, and today we're here and we're going to be doing chef support. Question number 1. The one kitchen gadget I will never get is a food dehydrator. Why is that a thing? Well, because it's good at dehydrating food. And if you want to dehydrate food, I mean, I know a lot of ovens make dehydrating settings, but I mean, without it, if you wanted to make jerky or different little fruit leathers or SCOBY snacks, you want a dehydrator.
Well, not all ovens go that low. Like some ovens bottom out at 150, 200, and sometimes you need a lower temperature to really dry something out. Fruit leather, that kind of thing. So it's like if you're into food crafting, maybe it's worth the investment. If not,
yeah. And I understand it's a big bulky thing to put on the counter, but some of them are even collapsible. I mean, I don't know. It seems like the least of anyone's problems. Next question.
Okay. Does anybody know how to make kombucha taste a little better? The taste isn't too bad, and I kind of like it, but the aftertaste hits me.
There's a lot of complexities and layers to what could be behind all flavors of your kombucha. Maybe it's the tea you're using. Maybe you have some funky yeasts and bacteria in your atmosphere that are giving off all flavors. Maybe you're fermenting it too long.
And you add like fruit juices and purees, right?
Yeah, so I mean, if you're doing right out of the container, the first fermentation, right off the SCOBY, people drink it there, and it's quite nice. It can be a little weird, but I like to put it into a bottle and then hit it with a little bit of fruit juice and let that do a secondary fermentation at room temperature. Maybe that's where you can pick up a little bit more of a pleasant flavor.
I'm fed up with useless garlic crushing gadgets that split chunks out the side. Spit chunks out the side. I'm considering getting a fine microplane grater. Thoughts? I mean, I would say definitely get a microplane regardless of your garlic needs because it's so useful, like grating nutmeg, all sorts of citrus zest. It's an indispensable kitchen tool. When it comes to garlic, like if you're trying to make mayo or an aioli and you need like a garlic puree, yes, microplane basically liquefies it. But if there's some cases where if you're browning garlic in a pan, like you want pieces. Clark DeHart wants to know, how does one bake bread without an oven? There's only really one option, that's to make like flatbread that you griddle. Unless you somehow like had a coals situation outside with a Dutch oven, you like put the Dutch oven in the coals, put the coals on top of the Dutch oven, and you create your own oven. Somehow.
Flatbread is the answer. Next question. Why is fermenting vegetables so much easier than pickling vegetables? This is a serious question. Fermentation seems to be a bit more difficult process, but in my experience, it's much easier to do successfully. I disagree 100%. I think there's so many more factors and variables that can change and throw you off in fermentation. It's easy to make things rot. To do it in a controlled rot, which I call fermentation, could be a little trickier. Pickling is a little bit more, you have your recipe, you have your stuff, you add it, and it's kind of set it and forget it. So yeah, I mean, if you're in a time pinch, a quick pickle for onions is super quick. Great, so we just add a little bit of water to this here pan, a little vinegar, a little salt and sugar. You really just want the salt and the sugar to dissolve. And then you have a little jar, like so. Put some onions in it, or carrots, or whatever you're into. And then you just pour that right over, whammo bammo. I mean, you can let that sit for an hour or two, but really, 12 hours overnight is fantastic, where it'll really start to penetrate the vegetable that you're quick pickling, and all those colors will start to bleed nicely, and those flavors kind of marry well.
Okay, sous vide friends, when it says cooking range 1 to 4 hours, WTH?
What the hell?
Oh, how do you decide?
This is an example of a sous vide machine. So, you put this in your pot of water, and it's a circulator. Maintains the temperature. When it says cooking range 1 to 4 hours, that gives you the window where, you can pull off very similar textures. You go past 4 hours, it might start to change the texture of whatever you're cooking, but it's usually that kind of holding window. Do a little small batch and find, little tests, and see what time you like the most. All right, where do you buy top quality meat? Like me personally? Do you shop for it at the grocery store or go to a butcher shop? Okay. I would always recommend going to a small, butcher shop where you can meet the people, you can find out, talk to them, you can, see where their products are coming from, and there's just, there's traceability and accountability for each product. Yeah, we were down in Central Texas in the hill country. They were doing bison and chickens and seeing how they treat them. They love those animals, and the animals were happy. They took them twice as long to harvest them because they weren't pumping them full of stuff like grain to fatten them up quicker. When you let it do its natural course, you get a healthier meat, you get a healthier product, and it's a more ethical way of consuming meat.
Considering getting a blender to make smoothies in, is it worth it? Would it be any better than the food processor we already have? Yes.
Two different tools.
A food processor creates mean, it chops, basically. It creates small bits. And you can let it go, and it will make it
It'll
fine.
make a
but
thing.
A blender liquefies. We're going to do a little side-by-side.
Yeah, we fly in the Vitamix.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's not really a fair fight.
Oh, Claire, it's fair.
The Vitamix versus the food processor?
Yeah, it's for the sake of science, Claire.
Okay. So, especially if you're using ice, the blender will crush the ice much better than a food processor.
And with the blender, you got to add a little liquid usually to get it going.
To get it spinning.
Which is fine because it usually wants.
That is the advantage of the food processor is you don't have to, there doesn't have to be like a critical amount of liquid for it to start. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready? Hello! Yeah, you know what that don't have? Turbo.
Alright, I think it's time to call it.
Yeah.
Alright, you want to pour it in a glass?
Sure.
Mine looks not good.
Yeah, yours looks like hell. Looks like bear scat. Oh, look at that, huh?
Yeah, that looks better than this.
I like to put a little mint in there. Look at that. Chunky. Cheers, Claire. Yours looks great. Have fun picking that out of your teeth.
I'll eat it because I'm starving.
Well, visually, she has a lot more chunks and bits going on. I'm sure it tastes fine.
It's not smooth in texture.
No, mine's got that nice kind of bounce to it.
Can I have a little of yours?
Yeah. Here, dump that swill out.
Moving on.
Focus, Claire.
Okay, I'll take this one. When baking cakes, sometimes you fold in and sometimes you beat in the ingredients. How do I know when to fold and when it needs beating? Folding is reserved for operations that need to be done gently to like keep the volume in the mixtures, and beating is
that makes sense.
You want to vigorously combine two things.
Plowing forward.
Okay, making cookies, and I don't have enough flour for 2 batches, so I'm multiplying. Is this happening right now? Because
this is live time.
All right, I'm multiplying the recipe by 1.5. If the original recipe calls for 1 1/4 sticks of butter, how much should I use?
Oh, my brain hurts. I don't know. Get more flour.
Should I use for my 1.5 batches, converting into tablespoons?
Butter.
1/4 sticks butter. So a stick is 8 tablespoons.
Plus a quarter
So
would
it's
be
10 tablespoons.
Yep.
So plus 5 tablespoons is use 15 tablespoons.
Right.
Done. This
Great.
is the hardest math I'm doing today. Let's
Yeah, me too. Next question.
All right.
What do you think about baking with Greek yogurt? Love it. Great idea. Say, like, substituting oil for Greek yogurt. That might not work out.
I love baking with yogurt and other acidulated dairy like sour cream because it adds a lot of tenderness to a baked good, like a cake, a pound cake, that kind of thing. So it's doing a lot, but I would not recommend substituting it for the fat.
Can't do it.
In the recipe.
Midnight Bananas Foster is great, but does the fire part really have to burn off all the alcohol?
I think what Kyle's really asking is, do you have to flambe?
You can just pour booze on it and eat it. It's fine.
You can cook off the alcohol without having to flambe it.
Right.
The flambe is just the drama of it. But like, yes, I think you need to cook it because otherwise alcohol burn gets in the way of all the other flavors. Okay, so we're going to do a little flambe demo.
Yeah, we are. We'll turn this up. What'd you say? We had a little sugar in here.
Brown sugar, butter, and cinnamon. Creme de banane.
Creme de banane.
Here's your banana halves. I'm going to throw them in. You have to say je flamme.
Je flamme.
Oh! Protect your eyebrows.
I have no eyelashes. What was the question? Do you gotta burn off your booze? Yeah, how else are you gonna je flamme?
I think for a proper bananas foster, you have to flambe.
You have to.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Today's baking status: enthusiastic, unskilled. Seriously, how do I get the icing to stay on the cake? Claire, take it.
This one's simple. 1, absolutely make sure the cake is fully cooled because even a little bit of heat from the center of the cake will
make it run,
melt the icing.
That makes sense.
It'll run off. Oh. But if you're going for that look of like the really defined, beautiful white drips, you need a much thicker glaze. I would hold back the liquid by half. Beer is fermenting vigorously. It blew the airlock off! Exclamation point. How do you get dried liquid marks off your wall?
Beer is fermenting vigorously, but it shouldn't really blow lids off, especially if you had the airlock. It must have just been doing so much that the amount getting out wasn't enough.
It was still building up pressure.
And pop a towel.
So I had a kitchen mishap recently. We had an exploding can of sweetened condensed milk that had turned into dulce de leche. Did I tell you the story?
No. But how did it explode? You leave it on the stovetop?
I didn't leave it on the stovetop, but it happened, and we had little ellipsis-shaped marks on every single wall of our entire living room and kitchen, and the ceiling. You might have to paint the ceiling, because that's what we had to do.
Really dislike imprecise recipes. Exactly how... Oh, jeez.
Exactly how thick is a, quote, thick sabayon? For visual indicators like this, where it says thick, YouTube is a great resource. Do a little searching on YouTube for like sabayon, how to make sabayon, and you can see it. So we're gonna show you really quick how to make a thick sabayon and what that means. So this doesn't have too many ingredients.
What do you got there?
egg yolks.
Okay.
Sugar.
Okay.
This step is called blanching, where you beat the yolks and the sugar. And so I'm looking for the yolks to lighten in both color and texture. Okay, so that looks good. I think that's there. So you can see it takes a second to dissolve. Okay, so that's ribbon. We have marsala. All right, now you
I'll do it.
stir. So this is a double boiler with very gently simmering water underneath. You don't want the water to be boiling because you don't want it to overheat the bowl. And the idea is that this becomes like voluminous. It'll triple at least in volume, and we'll see that nice ribbon again.
Yeah.
I'd say that is a thick Sauvignon. Ribbon, coats the back of the spoon.
Volume,
nice and moussey.
airy.
Yeah.
See you later, Sauvignon. Oh, it's got cookies, Claire.
Okay.
I'll read it to you. I can never get my macaroons right. Help, please. What did I do wrong?
So these have what they call a foot. If you go to like a fancy macaroon shop, you'll notice that little ruffled edge on the bottom. So that's hard to achieve. So they have the foot, but the tops are uneven and cracked a little bit. So that to me says that you're overbeating the batter. It's like you're working too much air into it. And then you're not folding enough after you're adding the almond flour, which deflates it a little bit.
So it shouldn't split like that?
No, it should be a really smooth, non-shiny, like matte finish. So try beating more after you incorporate the almond flour to take out some of the air. Give it a nice tap on the counter a couple times to bring out any big air bubbles. Then let it dry out on the counter for 20 minutes, can even go longer, so you develop a skin, and then that'll help you get a really smooth surface. Okay. But you got the foot, so you're doing pretty well.
Okay. Ovens don't cook food. Oh boy. People cook food. What's the best tool for cooking food?
Is this like a riddle?
Ovens don't cook food. Well, yes, they do. And people also cook food. It's a symbiotic relationship, BB.
It says, people cook food. What's the best tool for cooking food?
People. Nailed it.
But that doesn't even make sense.
Claire, you solved the riddle.
All right, Rachel McCaig wants to know, can a hashtag foodie explain the science of reducing a sauce before you thicken?
Yeah, like a roux or something.
Yeah, because even if you add like a cornstarch slurry or something, or like a beurre manier to a sauce, if the sauce is watery, the thickener will thicken it, but it's not going to make the flavor less watery.
You're still going to have to reduce it to the right amount.
Right.
Next question.
When making chocolate mousse, do you use egg whites or whipping cream? A decision must be made. This is a good question. The problem with using just whipping cream is that it will actually fall. Like it's not stable. So the idea of adding egg whites and chocolate, like you're creating this sort of stable mixture that in the fridge is keeping that air. So I would say go egg whites or both. Don't just use whipping cream.
Does miso paste go bad? I have everything to try this, but the miso paste is over a year old with no dates printed on. No.
Fine.
You'll be fine. I have one that's been sitting out at room temperature for about 2 years now, and it just gets denser. It just gets more like chocolatey and firmer.
I think the rule of thumb for is something bad? Does it smell fine? Does it look fine? If so, it's probably fine. All right, Cal Wilson wants to know, how does one poach in olive oil?
Cal, strong name.
Isn't that just a fancy way of saying deep fry the shit out of it?
No, absolutely not. Poach is usually just submerged and low temp, gentle, not fry the hell out of it.
Poaching is like no color. You're not trying to put color on it. Deep frying is like crispy edges, golden
the opposite
brown.
of frying.
Right. Let's move on.
Oh, mama.
Brad.
Dear Bon Appetit, does Brad do all of his own stunts? Does he need a body double? My husband is available.
It's your doppelganger.
He's way better looking than I am. And please email me your resume and we'll consider it. I do all my own stunts, thank you.
All right, we answered a lot of questions.
Yeah, well, a ton of questions, and a lot of them were good. People really put thought into it and care about what they're cooking.
And I like that people were asking questions because it means they're cooking at home and trying new things and experimenting.
That's right.
And you learn more from the failures than the successes.
That's the only way you do learn.
It's like just keep cooking.
Keep making mistakes, and we'll help you figure them out.